Today I wanted to go over special right triangles. Mainly the 30, 60, 90. And we'll go over the 40, 45, 90 triangle here in a minute. So the 30, 60, 90 triangle is basically a right triangle. We'll draw a semi-decent graph of right triangle with this will be your 30-degree angle, 60-degree angle, and your 90. So the 30, 60, 90 theorem says that the bottom leg that's opposite of the 30-degree angle will be x. The hypotenuse will be 2x, and the other leg that's opposite of the 60-degree angle is x square root 3. So you may wonder why. So for example, we'll just say, instead of putting x, we'll just say you have your 30, 60, 90. This will be your 30. This will be your 60. There's your 90. They'll say this is 1, 2, square root 3. Well, you can use a variety of methods to show that it works. You could use Pythagorean theorem, stating that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it'd be basically saying 1 squared plus the square root of 3 squared equals 2 squared. 2 squared, there we go. So, you plug that into your calculator, or just do by hand. 1 squared is 1, plus square root of 3 squared. Squared cancels out the square root, so you get 3 equals 2 squared, which is 4. 3 plus 1 is 4. So, it works that way. Or you could even plug it into your calculator and say that, go through and say this is your adjacent side, your opposite side of 60. We'll just base it off of 60, and this is your hypotenuse for 60. So you could say let's do cosine of 60, there we go, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it'd basically be 1 over 2. So if you plug in your calculator, make sure your calculator's in degrees, of course, and say cosine of 60 should equal 1/2, which it does. So that works. So that theorem works, and you can use it for any equation. So on the ACT, they may ask you, let's come over here and do, they give you a right triangle, and they give you, let's say your hypotenuse is 15. Random number, I guess. And they're going to ask you for, let's say, this side. So since you know it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle, there we go, that's better. Alright, 30, 60, 90 triangle. You can say, well, you can figure out this side first and say divided by 2, so that's 15 halves, or 7.5. I would just keep it in 15 halves personally. Then you would multiply it by square root of 3, so it'd be 15 over 2 square root of 3. Or, I believe, that you can do square root of 3. Okay, yeah. or you can rewrite it as 15 square root 3 over 2, because it's basically another way of saying 15 over 2 times square root 3 over 1. So, those both would be acceptable answers. They may give you, based off that, that's 30, 90, 60. Do the opposite and say, well, what's 5 square root 3? And they might ask you what this side is. And so you divide by square root 3, so the square root 3 comes off and give you this base and gives you 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So, pretty self-explanatory. We'll go on to the 40, 45, 90 triangle, which is basically an isosceles triangle. So, we have a 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle, 90. So, an isosceles triangle, you should know that both legs should be equal. The theorem states that the bases are equal and the hypotenuse is x square root 2. So, you can also just say, well, how does that work? Well, we'll similarly use trig to show why, I don't know, there's your right angle, anywho. So, we'll just say x is 1, so this would be 1 square root 2, or just square root 2. You're saying, how does that work? We'll just use, again, Pythagorean theorem. 1 squared plus 1 squared equals square root of 2 squared. So, 1 squared is 1, plus 1 squared is 1, plus square root of 2 is, square root of 2 squared is, squared cancels out the square root, so you're left with 2. You can also do it similarly with trig and say this is, we'll just go off with the 45. Either 45 would work since they're the same. Say this is adjacent, opposite, hypotenuse. So, you could say that cosine of 45 should equal 1 over square root 2, because adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be 1 over square root 2. So, if you plug that into your calculator, again with it being in degrees, 1 divided by square root 2, you get the same answer, which is 0.707, 0.707. So, those are the two special right triangles that you need to know for the ACT that they'll most likely go over. If you'd like to like, comment, and subscribe to this video, it would be appreciated. Comment down below on any other topics that you'd like me to cover, and I'll see you next time.